by Council's Environment Regeneration Committee. This meeting has been held remotely and also in person and will be filmed and recorded for live and subsequent broadcast available through the Council's website. Council is a data controller under the General Data Protection Regulations and the Data Protection Act of 2018. We broadcast and record Council meetings to fulfil our public task obligation to enable members of the public to observe the democratic process. Data collected during the process will be retained in accordance with Council published policies available through the Council's website. Members of the Council are reminded that they should follow the Council's established meeting protocols, including around the use of the chat facility, and that comments made in the chat facility are visible to all participants in the meeting, which may include members of the public who have also received invites to the meeting. Okay, moving on, are we getting apologies, substitutions, or declarations of interest?
Convener, we have an apology from Councillor Nelson to be substituted by Councillor Daisley. We'll move to a roll call. Can the following councillors please indicate if they're present at the meeting? Councillor Brooks.
In chamber.
Councillor Cassidy.
Present in chamber.
Councillor Clockerty.
Present in chamber.
Councillor Crowther.
Present in chamber.
Councillor Curley.
Present remotely.
Councillor Daisley.
Present remotely.
Councillor Jackson.
In the chamber.
Councillor McCabe.
Present in chamber.
Councillor McCormick.
Present in the chamber.
Councillor Quinn.
Present in chamber.
Councillor Robertson.
Present in the chamber.
Are there any declarations of interest?
No. Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Josh is only got ready a couple of minutes to get the bread. I'm going to bring him in here, sorry. So, under this business, we've got the net zero action plan.
Convener,
Yes.
would it be appropriate for it? But it's not quite point of order, it's part of clarification.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I was fantastic to see that the levelling up was on the agenda, but I was disappointed that some private papers, reading at 2.1C, I can understand why legal has moved this paper, its item 3 of our agenda, into the private section. But the information available in Appendix A is a fantastic report that we've already committed that the massive amount of public fund that's being spent will be transparent and will let the public see. There's going to be made this disruption, and we've agreed again to ensure that the public are kept fully aware. In the information Appendix A, I'm surprised that would have to went into the private papers. I just hope that in future, and maybe legal can advise that, you know, if we've got information before us that contains private information, and I say I acknowledge 2.1C is the reason that it's a private paper, could the paper not be split so that, as I said, Appendix A could be shared with the public?
Okay, thanks, Neil. Peter? Peter?
So as a matter of course, if a report relates to a matter where executive information might be discussed, that whole paper will tend to be made private. But that doesn't mean that we can't then look at an individual item and see if there's aspects to it that can be worked publicly, and that can be added to public papers after that.
Right, the director has said we'll have as much information in public as possible with regard to this level up. It's a lot of public money has been spent, the public have a keen interest, and people are asking questions, and the Appendix A would answer so many of their questions.
Sure, any comments?
Yeah, through you, Convener. One of the fundamental requirements of the Levelling Up Fund, Councillor Brooks, is public engagement and public consultation. So it's our intention that we will be putting much of this information into public domain over the summer period. So hopefully that gives you some comfort that the public will be aware of the information. We've had information in terms of why it's in private, but recognising it is such a high profile project. Whilst the outcome is going to be very positive for the people of Inverclyde, getting there will be difficult because of the disruption that we will implement on two main arterial routes throughout Inverclyde, and the public obviously have to be aware of that in order to get the public's cooperation in delivering the project.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, back to the agenda. So item number 2 is the net zero action plan. Ed, what do you think?
Thanks, Convener. The report provides the committee with an update on progress made against the approved net zero action plan, and also seeks to approve to allocate funding from the net zero capital allocation for projects connected with ultra low emission vehicles and associated charging points and peatland restoration projects. The report also includes an update on emissions reporting and new duties introduced in relation to the development of peat networks. I would talk to the action plan updates, as the detail on that is included in Appendix A, and it's extensive. On the vehicle replacement programme item, approval is being sought to alter the current policy for cars and light vans, moving from a 5-year replacement cycle to a 7-year cycle, and that's in connection with the increased cost of vehicles and the inability of the current model to sustain a 5-year replacement cycle. Additionally, approval is being sought to replace those vehicles due for replacement over the 2023 to 26 period with ultra low emission vehicles, with the additional cost of that funded from the net zero capital allocation as outlined within the report. The peatland restoration proposals at Harbours and Dowries outlined in the report, and officers have been working with Right Valley Green Network on the options for that work. Approval sought to include funding from the net zero capital allocation, and to note that 100% grant funding will be possible. The report also covers an update on annual greenhouse gas emission reporting, and the current figures are included within the report, including some notes on areas that are affected by carbon emissions. It should also be noted that from 2023 to 24, the emissions from indoor leisure operated dwellings will be captured as part of the annual reporting. They haven't been captured to date. Last item to note is on the new duties introduced in connection with peat networks. The authority will now prepare building assessment reports for its own assets, and it will also collect data from other public sector asset owners, and that will feed into a duty to identify heat network zones in the authority area. And that's designed to link in with the duty to develop a local heat and energy efficiency strategy and delivery plan by December 2023. And I would ask the committee to approve the recommendations, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks so much, Ed. Okay, members. Stephen?
Yeah, just a couple of questions. In terms of the vehicle replacement programme, do we have a solution for our refuse collection vehicles in terms of being going to electric? And the other questions with regard to peatland restoration. So I'm assuming we feel fairly confident that we'll get this money back in the grant, but I'm a bit puzzled as to why there's an insistence that you sort of meet the costs up front and then you're reimbursed. I would have thought that potentially could present significant challenges. I mean, it's so hard we've allocated £3 million and we're a local authority, but I would imagine like individual landowners or smaller organisations might find that very challenging.
Absolutely. So you convener, on the first item, there isn't currently a viable solution for the HGV vehicles and the larger vehicles, and that's why we haven't kind of specifically addressed that in this report. There needs to be more options on the table for that, and at present there isn't a viable solution. So this is only addressing light vans, cars at this present time, but we expect to be able to come back. I think the officers dealing with that are confident that the solutions will be available maybe in a few years' time, but they're not there just now. On the peatland restoration item, I agree with you, it's not an ideal mechanism for funding. I think the information I've got from the GCB Green Network officers is that should we get approval today to proceed, then the intention is to submit an application pretty soon after that to allow us to be in a position to know whether or not we're going to get the grant funding before we formally commit to a contract. So that is the intention, that we're not going to formally commit to a contract unless we're confident that we're going to get the funding.
Yeah. Well, just I suppose to follow that question up, and hopefully the Nature Scotland are not listening to this conversation, but I suppose in terms of priorities and the initial allocation of £3 million, are you saying that basically if we don't get the funding tonight from Nature Scotland, this wouldn't be a priority project and spend the money on something else, or we see this as a priority project irrespective of the outcome and we'd spend the money?
I would see this as a priority project regardless of the funding situation, and it's one that you need to act now on because the peatland doesn't reach its optimal condition for a number of years. So the sooner you start this activity, the more impact you will get from that activity. And Stuart may want to come in and reinforce that view, but I'm confident that the funding is there to be you've got. It's just through that process and again, this is ideal. We'd like to have a commitment upfront to please start doing that.
Okay, sure. You're looking at this evening. Okay, Colin and John. Colin.
Thanks, Mike. Eddie, it's just about the Skill Estates programme. Obviously, the new Estates programme has helped reduce carbon emissions over the years. It's just to ask if there's any more work required to be done within the schools.
Yeah, through you, convener. I mean, one of the net zero action plan items is to investigate what retrofit solutions there are, possibilities across all the council estate, not just the schools. So we've actually carried out a number of retrofit studies on different buildings, 2 or 3 now, and the options for that are varied, but they are expensive. And retrofit is an area you need to address to reduce your consumption. Decarbonisation is a separate thing. You can take away your gas boiler and put a heat pump, and it just means your bills are going to increase in terms of your electricity bills. You won't have a gas bill, you have a significantly higher electricity bill. So if you don't look at retrofit in tandem with doing that, then your revenue costs are higher than they were before. So it's a complicated area. We've got a lot of work to do to understand the scale of the retrofit challenge, and the retrofit part of that isn't included in the zero action plan funding at the moment, because we're not at that stage. So we're looking at initial projects in terms of renewables studies, potential heat pumps on smaller buildings, but in the larger buildings, we're still the best way to approach that. But it will take time and investment to do that.
Okay. John.
Thank you, convener. Firstly, I would actually like to thank the officers, because this is quite a substantial paper. There are a very large number of action points, and I very much welcome the progress updates that are attached to each of them. But if I can focus on the vehicle replacement programme, and I welcome very much that the council has taken full advantage of the funding that was made available by the Scottish Government, and that they've now have 38 ULEVs in the fleet, and I note further that there's a balance of 70 vehicles that would fall into the 2025 procurement phasing deadline. I understand that the current allocated budget isn't sufficient to maintain the replacement policy currently in place, and I fully understand the need to increase that from 5-year to 7-year, with the resulting increase in the maintenance costs. The paper does note that there would be savings generated through the transition from current fuel prices between the electrical costs and the cost of diesel. But I don't see any mention there in the revenue that would be generated from the sale of these 70 vehicles, and whether that could be factored in at some stage on the figures that we'll have. In addition to this, I also note that there's 22 charge points within the Pottery Street, East Hampton Street depot, with a further 10 charge points due to come live imminent. That brings it up to a total of 32 charge points, which is quite a large number. And was wondering if, instead of us taking the power from the grid, whether it would be possible, and obviously it would mean a potential change to the net zero action plan. So I don't think that it included any, should we say, wind turbines or other means of bringing the electrical generation to Inverclyde Council. I was just wondering if we could possibly look at the generating of our own electricity, bearing in mind that yes, there will be quite a large initial cost on that, but in the long run, the possibility is that we could save money and even possibly sell money back onto the grid. So it's really just one for consideration if the council would be willing to go down that line. The second question is much more simple. As I noticed there in page 26 of the hard copy, reference 1.28, it refers to the footpath network, and it states that the lead person or service, and that includes the outdoor access forum. Has Inverclyde Outdoor Access Forum been formally informed that they are listed as a lead person or service, and have they been involved in any of this action plan? That's reference number 1.28 on page 26 of the hard copy.
Okay, Stuart, you want to?
Yeah, through you, Chair. If Councillor Crowther was amenable, I'll take the first part of the question, and then Mr Montgomery can deal with the hard part of the question. Recognising that this paper sets out a policy for light vehicles, and clearly there is an aspiration to take the whole fleet towards ultra low emission vehicles. So what our officer's intention is to bring a more comprehensive report looking at all vehicles, and within that we would consider the whole life costs of the vehicles, recognising that the report within the first year we're looking for an allocation to buy vehicles, and the number of vehicles will be dictated by the price of the vehicles, the size of the vehicles, and what they'll be used for. With regards to the second part of your question, generating our own, whilst it's not a fundamental part within the action plan, officers have been tasked with considering microgeneration on a number of locations within Inverclyde, and that would go some way to supporting your comment about being able to generate our own electricity. You'll recognise that we've got a number of waterways within Inverclyde. Many of those waterways are encapsulated waterways. There has been an aspiration by the council in the past to do generation. That's not been successful to date, but we would still like to do generation using the infrastructure that's existing within Inverclyde.
Okay, could I just add a quick kind of supplementary to that when you mentioned the waterways? And as we know, when it comes to the Ladyburn, there's been a tremendous amount of flooding through the years. Is there a sufficient head of water in the Ladyburn that we could use that as a form of microgeneration? I don't expect that there will be, but nonetheless I still have to ask the question.
Through you, Convener, the sites of microgeneration, Councillor Crowther, are further up the hill.
Okay.
So there's better head, better flow. You're absolutely correct with the Ladyburn. If you were to look at the Ladyburn today, there wouldn't be an awful lot of water in it, and we wouldn't get an awful lot of electricity out of it.
That's fine, thank you. That's the response I was expecting on that. Thank you.
Hey, did you want to come with another point, John?
So you can be there, and the net zero action plan, as you'll appreciate, involves coordination of input from lots of services. It's not just our own service. That particular item is from another service. I don't know the answer to the question, but I'll find out and I'll come back to you. And
Okay.
I'll let you know.
That's fine, thank you.
Okay, John. Okay, Chris.
Thank you, Convener. Just a couple of questions. First of all, just to say, yeah, I welcome the progress made on a number of these items, and I see there's great opportunities in Inverclyde for moving towards net zero, and maybe more than in other areas with regard to the peatlands, etc. as well, which obviously has been raised a few years ago now by the local MP. It's great to see we're making progress on that. What I would ask you is to try and get a quantum on the peatlands and the ability for us to actually to carbon offset, really, or to improve those peatlands to capture more carbon, enable us to offset our other use. I'm just trying to get a quantum of effectively what that would be able to, what effect that would have to our net zero targets. I'm just wondering if officers would be able to provide some sort of clarity on that. Are we talking about 1%, 2%, 10%? Presumably not 100%, but I'd be interested to just see what sort of quantum is able to be put on that at this point in time.
Yeah, so you can be there within the report itself, in the implications section, that there's an indication of what the annual CO2 impacts would be for the different areas, both for those Harwich and Dowries areas. That gives you an indication, but again, it's just an indication just now, and that's through that initial feasibility study that was undertaken, and that would have to be revisited post completion of the works. But it does give you an indication that they want to.
Yeah, but I'm just what was just a wee supplementary to that. I was just trying to look at that across to their actual energy consumption. I think we talked earlier in the paper about 70 million watt hours, I think it is, of annual heat demand. So I was just wondering what's the equivalent number of that is in CO2, just to try and get a quantum on it. How much we could possibly offset from the carbon capture.
I think it's an action I can take away to discuss with the new energy and climate team, climate change team leader. And the areas of calculation in this are quite complex, and I appreciate what you're asking, but it's quite difficult to relate it all back to a single figure. So I can take an action away to discuss that with the team and come back to you and try and answer the question.
Yeah, thank you. That'd be good, because I was just trying to get. At the moment, we've got apples and we've got pears. We just want to try and see get them together.
Okay.
The other thing would just be on that. And
Plus,
sorry,
I think
yeah.
Stuart's going to come in just for a second.
Oh, is he? Sorry. Remote working, I can't pick up the noise.
Councillor Curley, you'll see that in paragraph 320 of the report, it identifies that the baseline figure that we use for paragraph 3.21, it shows the baseline figures. So we're about, we started off in 2012-13 at 19,104 tonnes. The report also identifies later on, in respect of paragraph 5.7, that anticipated yield from the completed peatland restoration would be about 2,440 tonnes. Now, Mr. Montgomery is absolutely correct that there's many ways of counting this, but based on the information that we have today, that would show what, against the baseline figure, the peatland restoration would achieve.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. No, just the other thing, just on the actual the action points and action plan, which is obviously a lot of information there. Just a quick question, because a lot of it, I think I've raised this before, a lot of the action points are more Inverclyde area as opposed to Inverclyde Council, and we talked about maybe developing a net zero strategy with respect to the lines. I'm just wondering whether or not we can provide an update about that, if that's something that's being progressed at the moment.
That's not the chair of the lines.
Your phone was there before you got here.
No, but I'm asking this because I'm conscious of the fact I'd like to try and get the net zero plan for the council, corporate council, streamlined. So I'm just saying from my point of view as being a council member, how that's going.
Every day's a school day. Always always. There you go. I'll give an update, but actually at that point in the particular Alliance Board meeting, you were the chair at that point. But we had our meeting last Monday. It was the first face-to-face. This is just context. Yeah. First face-to-face meeting that we'd had in 3 and a bit years or so. So it was quite a special meeting, and at the end of it we had a session where each of the partners around the Alliance Board table did give a preliminary update on where they are with their own net zero aspirations and plans. So we had given a couple of prompt questions which we've asked people to then give a written update on, so that we can pull it together as a collated plan, because Councillor McCabe brought up at the meeting, he was absolutely right. It was no point in having this as a talking shop where we kind of brought the information in and then nothing happened with it. Absolutely intend to have, once that's all collated, to then have it as something that we keep on top of as an Alliance Board, not only in terms of what we know all the partner agencies are doing, but crucially what we can do together. And actually, you know, if one partner has stated that they're going to do X, and 2 other partners have also stated that they're going to do X, and they can do X together, then that's better than 3 of them trying to pursue X as individual agencies. So that's all in hand.
You did want to chair that Alliance Board, wasn't it?
I'm living the dream. I'm living the dream.
No, okay. Right, listen, no questions?
No, that's me, thank you.
Okay, Tim.
Yeah, thanks. Hopefully it's a lot simpler one. Going back to the paper, peatland restoration, we had a paper last committee meeting on the hydroelectric scheme. Now, I don't know if it covers the same area, but I know there's going to be an awful lot of infrastructure work associated with the hydroelectric scheme. So I'm just want to make sure that we know that it's mutually exclusive. One doesn't impact on the other, and we know what we can plan the both of them, or it's totally different locations. So I'm just looking for that idea that we know what we're doing now. Both of them are mutually exclusive. They're different areas, or if they are in the same area, we can plan it all in the many years that we're going to be needing to do it.
So, through you, Chair, Convener, we recognise that we have a resource within Glenorchy Regional Park. That resource has got a number of competing priorities, whether that be for open space, agriculture, forestation, peatland, hydro, wind, and it's striking the balance between all of the areas. So shallow peat doesn't have an awful lot of carbon benefit, whereas deeper peat has much more benefit. And unfortunately, the maps you have within the report aren't in colour. Like, it shows the areas where we are going to be carrying out works. So we're comfortable that the peatland restoration that's been carried out is complementary to the competing priorities within Glenorchy Regional Park.
Good. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thanks. So you'll be glad to know mine is a general question and not a specific technical question. So thanks for the report. It's really easy read, especially because it is quite a complex issue. So just on that, so it's really just obviously a lot of the solutions that we need to put in place may involve technologies that are probably not even developed yet. So it's just what is the mechanism for us as a council, and bearing in mind, as you said, it touches near enough every area. What is the mechanism to make sure that everyone in the council is up to date with the latest technologies that can help us find solutions?
Through you, Convener. I mean, the key to that is collaboration, and we are in collaboration with a number of different bodies and authorities. We all talk to each other. So across the different local authorities, I'm talking to them about numbers, understanding where they are and what they're taking forward. There are not a multitude of different ways out there currently of doing this, and I think we're all looking at similar interventions at the moment. We're working with Hub West Scotland and other partner agencies as well, and they're coordinating councils who are doing the same investigations we are, and we're obviously all keen not to spend the same money to get the same answer, and collaborate a bit more to make that exercise a bit more affordable to come out with something that we can use. So we're doing that. Lots of other networks, and I'm confident that we are aware of what's out there and that we won't be missing anything because we are tapping into all these networks. But you're absolutely correct, it is an area that is fast evolving. There are different things coming out all the time, different ways of doing it, whether that's heat networks and heat pumps and different ways of engaging pumps to do things. And we're looking at a feasibility study at the moment in terms of a heat pump in the district heat network in the central Bay area. That's part of the local heat and energy efficiency strategy development that we're doing as well. And again, we're trying to keep in touch with everybody that we can who's doing the same things to make sure that we're fully informed in the options that we're considering. But it's a difficult way to keep all of it.
Thanks, Ed. Steve, what?
Yeah, it was just to follow up Councillor Crowther's question earlier on about renewable energy generation. There's a letter in today's Lunar Telegraph referring to UK Labour's sort of promise to make the UK a global renewable energy superpower, and the writer of the letter is challenging the Labour members of this council to follow that through a local level and ensure that Inverclyde, I suppose, is that a local renewable energy superpower. But I think it is important that we have to look at opportunities for renewable energy generation, whether that be through wind or water, whatever. So I think we should be looking at all the particular examples that are sort of being pursued by other local authorities to see what we can do here, because I think the more that we can generate energy locally, the better, both for the council and for the local community. Certainly something that we should pursue, and obviously we've had the planning landscape, but absolutely we should pursue any opportunities that we can. So I would hope that is an important part of the strategy.
Thanks, Stephen. Sure.
Through you, convener. In terms of consents within Inverclyde, or indeed implementation within Inverclyde, we do have hydro, we do have solar, we do have wind, we do have battery, and we do have gas. So in terms of the gamut of the solutions that are out there, this council has supported those, either through the planning process or indeed as part of the school estates programme and the asset management programme. So yeah, if people ask, are we open for renewable business within Inverclyde, the answers are very resounding yes.
Okay, okay. Okay, anyone else? Can we agree with that?